Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and panicked about not having a certain colourway in your watch collection? And for that realisation that you have no watches in that certain colourway to plague your mind, so much so that you begin to suffer from insomnia. Well, it happened to me when I suddenly realised that I had no green dialed watches in my collection. And as I tried to offer myself some sort of comfort by telling myself that I will make amends to fix this horrible, horrible emptiness that plagues my empty nights by buying another watch, I slowly drift off to sleep thinking about that olive green, khaki-esque beauty that I so long for in my hollow, hollow life. Anyway, today I'm taking the macro lens to the MUS+06 Olive P Auto by Maven as I try to examine in detail every single aspect of this watch, as I usually try to do for you, my lovely, lovely viewers, all 9 of you. And just before we delve deep into this olive green khaki-esque beauty, for those of you who don't know, I do leave chapters in all my vids, so if you want to watch specific sections of my breakdown, then you can use those chapters below and hop around. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and or to leave a comment. I would absolutely love to hear what you think about this watch and this brand. And keep a lookout for my usual walk around at the end of my vid, as I take the MUS+06 Olive P Auto to Kingston-Upon-Hull, here in the East Riding of Yorkshire in sunny old England, visiting the famous Street Life Museum of Transport, before taking a little walk to the Humber Bridge, which was at one stage the world's longest single span road suspension bridge. As ever, it's great to have you here. Now let's look at an overdramatic specification of this watch, all in the next 90 seconds. What can I say about Maven? They are a Hong Kong based brand who one might say are a minimalist watch brand and have a range of styles in their product portfolio, such as the Enduring, the Minimalist, the Brute, the Artisan, the Deco, and the range that covers the MUS, the Urban Scout. And if you look online, you'll see that each and every series has a number of colour variants, and every single series within the Maven product portfolio caters for both males and females. The Urban Scout contains 2 styles within its respective range, the MUS Quartz, and this in my absolutely grubby but strangely soft hands today, the MUS Plus Automatic. And just to reiterate what was said in a sad and very reminiscent 90-second spec, this, the Maven MUS+06 Olive P Auto, came in at 14mm thick, including the crystal, 38mm in diameter, 47mm lug to lug, 20mm width at the lug with this stretchy parachute style strap not tapering down at all by the time you get to this metal hook. The dial is, well, the dial is green, and I must say that the colour was a very difficult colour to film, often coming out much darker under artificial light and behind the camera lens, with a bit of manual adjustment here and there to the lens and colour adjustment in Premiere Pro to get what I felt was its truest green, with probably the walk-around section of my vid representing the truest colour, as much of that was filmed in natural light. Anyway, back to the dial itself, and with Maven being largely a minimalist brand, it's an untextured dial and has an overall field watch feel to it, with the attention being all on, aside from the dial colour, the display of the white hour numerals which are contained on the inside of this minute track, and those white hour numerals are printed onto the dial and displayed in double digits, 01, 02, etc. And note that at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, there are these white inverted triangles that bleed into the minute track rather nicely. And the minute track is this circle printed in pale yellow, which really does complement that olive green, and those minute markers within the track get slightly larger at the 5-minute intervals and point towards those hour numerals, with the minute numerals every 5 minutes in that pale yellow on the outside of that track. For me, I think that setup of hour and minute markers really work with the emphasis on the hour markers in white, and I must say that the double digits for single numerals like 01, 02, etc. is a nice touch. You've got the date complication at the 3 o'clock, dial coloured background and white font, and I actually quite like that it's a circular date complication to complement the overall circular aesthetics of this watch. And also note that the Maven logo under the 12 is printed, but no other printed data such as the automatic status, for example, etc. above the 6, so it keeps to its overall minimalistic feel very well. Now this is the olive dial, but the ivory dial, or the MUS+1, is also available as their signature colourway for this product series, with also the MUS2 in navy and the MUS3 in black completing the series, and all in a range of different coloured straps, with the MUS+1 an orange parachute strap the standout for me, and the one I'd probably default to had it not been for my recent cravings for a green watch in my collection. Both the hour and minute hands are baton hands, pointed at the top and, well, minimalist. The pointed tip of the hour hand falls short about 0.5 mm before the hour numerals, and the point of the minute hand bang on the circular element of the minute track, and both are loomed, as you'll see in a mo. The seconds hand is a needle hand, counterbalanced in white, with its tip falling bang on the circular element of the minute track. I know that this is a minimalist watch, but there's a huge part of me that thinks Maven could have pushed that minimalist boundaries ever so slightly, and provide a seconds hand that was in the same pale yellow as the minute track to, I don't know, give this watch a little bit more oomph and also complement that secondary colour, not least that yellow stripe that runs through this strap. And the face of this watch is lit up with superluminova on the hands. Now the website doesn't state what type or grade of superluminova it has, but it very much looks like a BGW9, and it may well be a basic grade of that rather than a grade X1, and that's what I tend to think when brands don't state type or grade and just rather say superluminova. The dial and the hands are all contained under this scratch resistant double dome sapphire crystal which has anti-reflective coating, and that dome is a top hat dome and gives a little bit of nice distortion at the perimeter of the crystal, bending ever so slightly the minute markers at the edge of the dial in certain angles. I always find that pretty cool, but overall a sturdy crystal with decent amounts of AR coating, with a dial that has zero issues when it comes to legibility. Now the case is made from 316L stainless steel, is sandblasted and spans 47mm from lug to lug. The case is pretty cool actually, with this smooth, flat, sandblasted grey curving up towards the bottom of the top hat crystal very nicely. You have the MUS Plus automatic engraved on the left hand side of the case, which looks cool in my opinion, and from the side the case looks pretty slick, pretty elegant, and doesn't hold back or take any prisoners at 14mm thick, and as you can see it really does look slick despite its thickness, much like an old school UFO for me. And that 14mm complements the lug to lug more so than the diameter of this case, so can give a bit of a slightly bulky feel to it. Now this crown is a push-pull crown, coin-edged, and sports the Maven logo engraved into it. It's the same colour as the case and is sandblasted too, and just to note that the watch is actually water resistant to 200 meters in 20 ATM, which is actually pretty decent for this style of watch in my opinion. The strap is pretty cool too. It's an elastic parachute strap. This is the olive green with the yellow stripe that runs through its centre. It's 20mm in diameter and does not taper down. You've got this hook in the same sandblasted steel as the case and is engraved with a product name. It hooks onto the adjustment buckle of the parachute strap, and that hook is pretty deep, so there's little chance of it unhooking and the entire watch falling off. Now incidentally, the adjustment buckle is pretty easy to adjust too, and it's worth noting that everything metal here is in keeping with the same material used for the case. Now I won't lie, I was massively on the fence about this having a parachute strap, my preference initially probably being that it would have perhaps looked better on an Italian vintage leather, and that's speaking from someone who'd probably place NATO or nylon style straps as their least favourite straps, but actually I rather like the look and feel of this. The sandblasted case and the, dare I say, the dullness of that grey case is definitely suited better to anything other than steel or leather. And I actually like the casualness of this parachute strap, and I love the fact that you can just whip it on and off quite easily. It is however held together at the lugs with this quick release spring bar, so you can easily go for leather if that is your preference. Now I actually put it on this Harris tweed herringbone pistachio watch strap, which was kindly sent to me by the awesome, and I mean awesome guys at Vario, and I think that it'll probably live on this Harris tweed strap going forward. Now I did this for something a bit more wacky, something a bit different, and I actually changed it really to show that this watch can actually be fairly versatile and has the ability to completely change its complexion from a very fieldy watch to something a bit more earthy, dare I say, a bit more of a fashionable look. What do you guys think? The movement is a Miyota 8215 movement, 21,600 beats per hour, 21 joules, 42 hour power reserve, hacking seconds, hand windable, bit of an entry level workhorse, and achieves full power reserve when you hand wind the crown 40 times. Now look, it's not from the Miyota 9000 series of movements, but as I'm sure you'll find out when we talk about price in a moment, it's perfectly acceptable for what is actually an affordable and budget watch. And that movement is contained behind this caseback. It's sandblasted steel like everything else metallic on this watch. It's pretty standard, has the Maven logo slap bang in the middle of it with some spec on the perimeter, and all perfectly standard as I say. You most certainly wouldn't find an exhibition caseback on a watch like this anyway, and as you can see it's screwed into the case with these little screws. On my 7.5-inch wrist it wears, well what can I say, in terms of comfortability it wears absolutely perfectly, and that's largely down to the elasticated parachute strap. The watch body itself I think can feel a little proportionally bulky when worn with what feels like a very thin strap, and the overall feel on the wrist is that it should have this wobble effect when I wriggle my wrist because of the top heavy case and the lightweight strap, but actually the strap is so snug on my wrist with it being elastic that the case stays firmly where it should be. It's a 38mm diameter watch, which for me, on my 7.5-inch wrist, would normally be on the smaller side from a specification point of view, but actually I'd like to think that this wears a bit bigger. And that's largely down to the proportionally large 47mm lug to lug and 14mm thickness. Like I say, from lug to lug it's fairly big, and whilst there's a bit of curvature on the lugs, there does feel to be a little bit of a largest gap between the tips of the lugs and my actual wrist. It's not really a problem for me, but it may be a problem for someone with, say, a 6.5-inch wrist or a 6-inch wrist. Saying that, it wears really nicely, feels really nice, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now I walk around Kingston-Upon-Hull wearing jeans, t-shirt and a light jacket, and it really goes without saying that this is a casual watch, so fitted in perfectly with my casual attire, and I actually love the fact that I finally had that olive green, khaki-esque beauty in my life, and the green actually works really well with the grey jacket in my opinion. Now I actually wore the MUS+06 in the office one day, and we have a very casual approach to our office attire at the company I work for in Leeds in West Yorkshire, and I actually thought it looked great in and around a corporate workplace in my own opinion.
Can you stop talking about watches now and actually do some work?
In terms of price, the Maven MUS+06 Olive P Auto comes in at 2,880 Hong Kong dollars. That's 368 US dollars, 300 UK pounds sterling, and 350 euros, with a price currently discounted by 20% in this year's Black Friday sale, representing overall fairly decent value-ish for money, and that does include free standard shipping worldwide. I say overall fairly decent value for your money. I'd probably put this alongside a Sternglass Naos Automatic, similar spec, similar Bauhaus design, with this the Maven coming in about 20% cheaper than the Sternglass. Overall, I'm finally glad to have this olive green beauty in my life. My watch collection was in dire need of a green dialed watch. Now Maven, who consider themselves as a microbrand, actually have a very clean and simplistic brand. You get a good sense of what they stand for and what sort of brand identity they want to portray, not just in their online brochure, but also in the watches that they design. I can see this brand growing, and the development of their product portfolio is something that I can see a brand like Maven really evolving in time, much like Sternglass have actually. I actually like these brands, you know, the ones that have lots on offer and who cater for both male and female, and really brands who have almost like a catalogue feel to their user experience online. If you've not heard of Maven, please do check them out and let me know what you think of them in the comments below. As for me, in my endless nights of torturous nightmares and never-ending insomnia when I wake up from the depths of hell, I can finally rest easy. Rest easy that green goddess is finally in amongst the collection I've managed to collect over the years. That is, until the colour purple entered my mind.
number. Who's William Thomas? Is that like a show? William. Shut up, man. While we lasted, while we lasted. Do people actually every single thing? Yeah. Like even the ones that shoot multiple things? Adventure boy.
Nice.